Good evening and welcome to the Glendale Transportation and Parking Commission meeting of Monday, September 22nd. Eric, first item, please.
Item 1, regular business agenda. Item 1A, roll call. Commissioner Meravian. Commissioner Sulayan.
Here.
Commissioner Weissman.
Here.
Commissioner Welch.
Here.
Chairperson Sahakian.
Present.
Item 1B, flag salute. Chairperson Sahakian.
Stand. Put your right hand over your heart and recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 2, please.
Item 2, posting of agenda. The agenda for the Monday, September 22nd, 2008 regular meeting of the Glendale Transportation and Parking Commission was posted by Friday, September 19th, 2008 before 5:30 p.m. on the bulletin board outside of City Hall.
Item number 3.
Item 3, approval of minutes. Item 3A, August 25th, 2008 regular meeting approval of minutes.
Commissioners, any comments? No comments.
Okay.
Can we move it? Approved as written. Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes. The Commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision.
Thank you. I don't have any cards, so I'm going to open and close this item. Item number 5, please.
Item 5, action items. Item 5A, report on the proposed parking meter and parking facility rates, time limits, hours of operation, the authority of the Traffic and Transportation Administrator to change parking meter time limits and hours of operation, and the authority of the City Manager to approve special parking arrangements or waive parking fees as needed. 5A1, motion recommending that the City Council approve the implementation of the modified parking meter and parking facility rates, time limits, hours of operation, authorize the Traffic and Transportation Administrator to change parking meter time limits and hours of operation, and authorize the City Manager to approve special parking arrangements or waive parking fees as needed.
Thank you. Mr. Bagdanian?
Mr. Chairman, member of the Commission, I'd like to give you a presentation on this issue of setting parking meter rates for the on-street, off-street parking facilities, on-street meters, time limits, and hours of operation. As part of the mobility plan that the City Council approved, one of the major areas that the mobility plan made recommendation that we better manage our parking facilities using some form of a pricing incentive in order to basically charge for the prime locations and make that more expensive. Look at, for example, on Brand Boulevard, currently the parking is free. It's been free for a number of years. And whereas we're charging for parking in the off-street parking lots and in the parking structures. So basically what happens is those on Brand Boulevard employees or even visitors park for, although it's 2-hour parking, they park for longer than those 2 hours. They take the prime locations for parking for the businesses, especially the ones that rely on short-term parking and high turnover, and it's not improving the parking situations. For about 2 years ago, the Brand Boulevard Merchants Association and a number of merchants came to us and expressed their concern. That was evaluated as part of the mobility plan, and the recommendation was made to meter the parking lots on Brand Boulevard, change the time limits, and change the rates. So what we're here to present to you today and get your recommendation to be presented to City Council is to set the rates and the hours and the times for the on-street, off-street meters and the parking structures. One related action that also took place on July 22nd, City Council approved essentially purchase of what we call a multi-space meter or pay station to be installed on Brand Boulevard. and our plan is to make those installations. We've ordered the pay stations, and our goal is to have it installed by November, early November, first week of November. To do that, we're trying to establish all the rates, change the municipal code as it relates to the rates and times and hours of operation, have everything approved by council so we can do the implementation. As part of the process to get to this point, we've done a lot of comparisons with other cities, with the private and public parking lots and structures. We met with the Downtown Merchant Association, specifically Brand Boulevard, to make sure that the rates we're recommending is okay with them, because each block or some of the on-street meters or the off-street locations have a particular area, for example, a theater or a movie theater or like Alex Theater. They have some specific needs, so we wanted to make sure we cover all those. First, just to present you very quickly, these are where all the locations are. This is Exhibit B in your packet that shows the on-street meter locations. What we did as part of our analysis, we looked at what the rates are in other cities. So as you can see, our rate is at 60 cents an hour for the on-street parking meters, and majority of the parking rates on-street in other cities is higher than that. I would say average is about $1 in other cities as well. So at this point, what we're recommending that we set our parking meter rates at $1, and that was also what was recommended in the mobility plan. We have a combinations of 30-minute, 1-hour, 2-hour parking meters on street, and we want to maintain those, except that if there's a need for it later on, we're asking for authority from council that we're able to change the time limits for those meters. The hours of operations are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Here's the next slide, shows you the downtown parking lots and the parking structures and what the location of those lots and parking structures are. So in summary, what we're recommending here for the on-street locations only is to go from a 60 cents an hour to $1 an hour. We're keeping pretty much the same time limits on street. On different streets we have combination of these meters, but primarily on Brand Boulevard we have 2-hour parking spaces. Right now we want to keep the 2-hour limitation on Brand Boulevard. The hours of operations are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. What we're recommending is to change the hours of operation and extend it to 10 p.m. On street. The reason for that is right now from when we start at 9 a.m., employees who arrive early in the morning at 6 a.m. Or 7 a.m., basically they can park 2 or 3 hours on street. They take those spaces. Under the free condition that we have right now, they can park another 2 hours till 11 a.m. And then as a result, that space is taken 4 to 5 hours for free. If we put in meters also, that situation can continue. Employees can arrive early in the morning, at least get a couple of hours of free parking, and then basically at 9 to 11 a.m., that's the only time they have to pay. So what we're recommending to extend the hours from 9 a.m., bring it back to 6 a.m. in the morning, and then also extend it past 6 p.m. The reason is the same thing. Part-time employees currently come in and park at 4 p.m. if they're working for a restaurant or a theater. They park for 2 hours under the 2-hour limit, and then they can park longer because there's no limitation afterwards. So we like to extend the 6 p.m. hour to 10 p.m. as well on the Brand Boulevard parking limits, and then on the non-Brand Boulevard parking lanes, keep the same hours how we're operated from Monday through Saturday. But on Brand Boulevard, because of the activity that we have on Brand Boulevard, there are more retail establishments, there are restaurants, there are cafes that we like to operate Brand Boulevard 7 days a week. In fact, as a result of the Americana that currently is in operation, all those Brand Boulevard spaces that are currently available on street, we think that should be operating 7 days a week instead of 6 days a week. So our recommendation is to go with a $1 rate on street, maintain the existing time limits unless we're asked to change them on a case-by-case basis by the merchants, change the hours of operation to from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Non-Brand Boulevard Street will be Monday through Saturday. Brand Boulevard will be 7 days a week. Those are the hours of operation. That's for the on-street spaces. For the off-street spaces, what we did is we did also look at the hours of operation. Currently, we have a combination of 40 cents per hour rates in what we call short-term and long-term lots, lot 1, 11, and 12. Those are long-term lots that are 40 cents an hour. The 2, 3, 15, and 17 are 50 cents an hour. And then lot 4 is, again, long-term is 40 cents. Lot 6 and 10 is 50 cents an hour. We have, as I said, we have time limits that are 9 hours for the long-term and 3 hours for the short-term lots. Hours of operation are similar to on-street, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and currently, and the days of operations is Monday through Saturday for all the lots. What we're recommending on the lots to change the rates to 75 cents. Essentially, the last time the rates were changed is approximately 1998, about 10 years ago. The idea is, again, we make the prime locations more expensive. If you're parking in the lots, it's a little bit more expensive, less expensive. Then you go into the structure, it will be even cheaper. So we can attract people to go into the parking structure. Plus, we're going to offer a 90-minute parking for them. So the lots that we see here, we're recommending that we change the rates to 75 cents. We're essentially keeping the same hours, time limits, 9-hour limits for these lots, 1, 11, and 12, 2, 3, and 17. We're keeping the same hours. The lot that we're recommending that we change the hours from a 9-hour lot to 3-hour lot, this is the lot which is located at the corner of Maryland and Wilson, next to the church. That lot, we've done surveys also, and we see that that lot is occupied the whole time. In fact, till 10 p.m. it's always busy. So we believe that that lot, instead of a 9-hour, it should be converted to a 3-hour parking. Provide, again, short-term parking, 3-hour for restaurants or people who want to go to the theater. Just to the theater, for example, is close, walking distance to Alex Theater. We think that that lot should be a 3-hour lot. One thing that's important about that lot is that we don't own that lot. We lease the lot from the church, which is adjacent to the lot. We have to work with the church to amend our agreement with the church, and there are fees and rental that we pay to the church. Potentially, we may have to increase our fees that we pay to the church, and that needs to be finally negotiated. But first, we want to get in concept, get a recommendation from the Commission and Council to allow us to change the hours to 3-hour limits, so that then we can go back to the church and negotiate a new lease. Lot 6 and 10. Lot 6 is right off of Orange Street, right behind Porter's. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And Lot 10 is the lot which is next to the Central Library. Okay, both of those lots are always busy. Lot 6 because it's close to Porter's, it's close to the Glendale Center Theater that has shows. And also it's close to the Alex Theater. It's a walking distance from the Alex Theater. Lot 10 also is next to the Central Library, which is open 7 days a week. And currently on Sundays that people are parking there, especially because of the Americana, and they park there and take away parking from the library patrons. So at least we want to manage that better in order to allow parking for the library patrons, also provide short-term parking for the visitors. So we are changing those two lots to operate 7 days a week. As a matter of fact, from Porto's Bakery and some of the businesses there, they wanted us to extend it on Sundays, at least during the holidays, because the employees on Sundays, they go park in that lot rather than use the city's parking facilities. So essentially, the lot rates will be uniform. Instead of 40 cents and 50 cents, we're recommending to go to 75 cents an hour. We're keeping the time limits on 9 hours, except we're changing lot 4 to 3 hours. Again, subject to agreeing with the owner of the property that we will have to negotiate with them. And then changing the hours of operation, again, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Make it uniform downtown. So anywhere in the downtown that you park, you will know, essentially, we have one time limit. You don't have a variation similar to some cities that certain lots are different than other lots. Now, from time to time, if there is a need for changing those time limits, we can work with the merchant association or the particular businesses and make an adjustment in these hours. The days of operation, we're keeping everything the Monday through Saturday, except, as I stated, lot 6 and 10. Lot 6 is the one behind Porto's, close to the Center Theater, and lot 10, which is next to the library. One issue that I also want to raise with the commission is that there's a possibility that if you have visitors that are going to they go to a dinner and then they go to a theater, for example, that you may need to park more than 3 hours. So if you have a 3-hour limit in lot 6, for example, you may need 4 hours to park there. So if you come and park at lot 6 at 6 p.m., you go to dinner and go to Center Theater, okay, that would be beyond the 3 hours. You won't want somebody walk out of the theater to go pay for the parking space. We have a couple of options that we're exploring. One is with the pay station we can install in the lot. We'll be able to accommodate that. In other words, we can go have 3-hour parking limit till 6 p.m. After 6 p.m., we can switch that to a 4-hour or hour limit. So at 6 p.m., you can basically park there for additional 4 hours if you want to, or pay for 3 hours, and that would be adequate. So we want to have that flexibility to make that change, but we're aware that was a comment we got from the Glendale Center Theater, that they're concerned that if the patrons go to dinner somewhere and then they want to go to the theater, 3 hours is not enough, they need 4 hours. We can make that, either we do the change in the signage, or we will do that with the pay station itself on a case-by-case basis, so we can accommodate the needs of the theater. One thing we have to keep in mind, which I will also present, that all the theaters in the downtown will receive, the Center Theater, Alex Theater, on the theater, the Man Theaters, which is in the marketplace, or the Exchange. Currently, they have a $1 validation. In other words, for $1 you can park for 4 hours. So we're extending that $1 to the Center Theater. So you can go to park in the Orange Street garage, pay only $1, and you can get 4 hours of parking. That way, you won't be having this problem if you parked on the surface lot. Again, our emphasis is make the parking lots for short-term parkers and the garages for long-term parkers, and Brand Boulevard will be short-term parking, 2 hours for a high turnover for the businesses that are along Brand Boulevard. So that would be the only exception. We will modify lot 6 in case that issue arrives where they want to have an extended hours of parking for their patrons. We will be able to make that adjustment for them. But in general, this is our recommendation, that we have 75 cents, 3-hour parking, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and 7 days a week for these 2 lots. Okay. Next is the parking structure rates.
No, before we move on, can we put back the map that shows the parking, not the structures, the parking lots? Because
Parking
the
lot.
plan, doesn't show the one by the Central Library. I just want to make sure if the public are
It's
looking
this
at
one.
That's 10. Now, what about the numbering? It says,
This is lot number 10 that I was mentioning.
okay,
Lot number 6 is this one. I'm sorry, it's this one.
that's lot number 6. Now,
One
what
sec.
about lot number 15? That's,
15.
yes,
We don't. Down is right here.
it's next to 11?
Yes.
So next to 11, you have lot
15 is a very tiny lot right here. I'm sorry, your graphic is not.
Yeah, okay.
It's
I see
it's
it now.
next to Billy's.
Yeah, I see it now,
Restaurant.
okay.
If you want me to go through, this is lot number 12. This lot, it's kind of far away. It's not heavily used. This one, lot number 1, currently council has approved for a hotel on this site. So essentially, this is going to be a temporary lot. I mean, it's going to be there, might be there for another year or two until the hotel is constructed, if it proceeds. This is that lot number 15, the Orange Street Garage.
It would be nice if you can identify with something, because...
Okay, basically this is Wilson Avenue, and here's Orange Street. Okay, it's Orange Street. Billy's is right here, the Billy's restaurant, and there's a very narrow lot next to it. To the north of it is the Orange Street Garage. Here's lot 6. This is Brand Boulevard here, and Porto's is right here. Okay, Glendale Center Theater is just north of this lot here. It's located over here. So essentially, and then there's Damon's, for example, a little further up in here. So essentially, what I was mentioning, lot 6, is that you'll have people, if you, let's say, go to one of these restaurants along here and then want to go to Center Theater, okay, they may need about 4 hours of parking. The Orange Street is right across the street, across from Wilson Avenue, California, right here. So it's within a walking distance. And so you can get $1, you pay $1 in park for 4 hours in the Orange Street Garage. This lot currently is 3 hours. We have some half hour, 30-minute parking spaces because the bakery has a lot of quick pickup, so we made those changes in the surface lot. But that's the lot that we're talking about operating 7 days a week, because employees of some of these restaurants and businesses on Sunday park in the lot and take away the customer parking. So in my presentation, I will also mention about what we think is a reasonable monthly rate that we can provide in the Orange Street Garage to attract the employees to park in the Orange Street. So lot 6 is the one that I was mentioning earlier. Lots 2, lot 3, and lot 17 also are fairly busy lots because they serve the businesses along Grand Boulevard and also Alex Theater. And then lot 4 is the 9-hour lot that we're recommending to go to 3-hour parking. And this lot is leased from the church next door at this location. We have to modify the lease, so in concept, if the commission recommends and council approves, we'll go back to the church and we will negotiate the terms of the lease and modify it as necessary. If they don't reach an agreement, then we'll just keep it as a 9-hour lot if it has to be that way.
Is lot 4 right behind Alex Theater and Carousel Restaurant?
Yes, it's across. This is Maryland Avenue right here.
Right, it's right behind Brand.
Right. This is Brand Boulevard. So if you walk down Brand to Wilson and up Maryland, you have lot 17 here and lot 4 next to it. What we'll do is next time we'll blow this up and get a better map for you.
So lot 2, 3, and 17 and 4, are you recommending a 3-hour parking limit?
They're currently 3-hour except lot number 4.
What was lot number 4 again? What's the maximum? 9 hours?
Lot 4 is 9 hours. This is the only lot that is 9 hours.
So
that's 9 hours that we want to convert to 3 hours. The lots that are further down here, we want to maintain the 9-hour time limit for.
And which lot you said earlier that you were concerned about if the merchant wanted to extend the amount of hours after 6 p.m.? Which lot was that?
It would be lot number 6. Based on input we got from the Center Theater, that usually their customers do a combination dinner and theater show.
Well, how about the Alex Theater? If someone goes to Alex Theater, has a show, and then wants to go somewhere to eat?
Yeah, we, with Alex Theater, they have, as I said, for the structures, we have a $1 parking for 4 hours. They can park in the structure. So if you pay $1, you get your ticket stamped or, with the Alex Theater, you can park in the Orange Street Garage, you can park in the Exchange within a walking distance, and you can get 4 hours of free parking with $1. So we believe that, that Alex Theater didn't have this problem. Essentially, the Center Theater, because they have a lot of seniors, they think that some of their seniors won't be able to walk the distance to Orange Street structure, so it's better for them to park right here, and we'd like to accommodate them because it's an important theater in the city. Whereas the Alex Theater, you can park, if you're going to the show, there's 3-hour parking here or here, or you can walk to Orange Street, get a pay $1 and park for 4 hours, or go to exchange structure. Again, that's very close walking distance, and pay $1 and get for 4 hours of parking. But I think we will provide parking for their customers. And keep the lots for 3-hour parking for visitors only. So if you just want to go for dinner, those lots will be for 3 hours. If you want to go to just to a show, you can have 3 hours. But the combination, then you can go into the structures and get 4 hours of parking.
For $1.
For $1, which we think it's a pretty good deal considering what you have to pay in other
Are
cities.
they still empty, Jono, the orange parking lot?
Yes.
They're still empty?
Right, and that's one of the other reasons under the structure rates, we're recommending that we come up with an incentive to improve the rates in the structure, especially Orange Street, so that. So here's, this next slide shows, in order to set the parking rate for the structures, again, these rates for the structures have not been changed for 10 years. And what we are operating currently in the city's parking structure, we have 3 structures: the Marketplace, Exchange, and the Orange Street. They've come online over time. We built them. The oldest one is the Exchange. The Marketplace was built next. Orange Street is the newest structure. Our current rate is $1.50 per hour in all the structures, $6 maximum, daily maximum. And I'll get into the monthly rates in a little bit. Our parking rates have not changed for the last 10 years. Our parking operation maintenance costs has gone up 40%. Essentially, revenue that is generated from Marketplace and Exchange basically pays for its structures, pays for the operation of the Orange Street garage, and also generates some profit for the city. So if we keep the hourly rates the same, continuing to go forward, and the increase that we have in the maintenance operation costs, we may start operating these garages at a deficit. So our goal is to increase the rates to pretty much cover our increase in our operating maintenance costs, also generate some revenue that will be used for improving parking in the downtown. To set the rates for in the parking structures, we looked at the rates in other cities. So if you look at, there's a large table that compares all the cities. On the maximum rates, daily hourly rate in other cities is $5. The average is $2.25, and the minimum is $1. Our rate is $1.50 an hour. The daily maximum in the other cities, these are the comparable cities: Pasadena, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills. The daily max is $12. The average is $7.88 compares to other cities, and the minimum is $6. The daily maximum in Glendale is $6, which is somewhat consistent with the what the other cities have. We're still below the average. And then the monthly rate that is you pay for monthly parking in these cities are $100. The average is $66 and $30 minimum. We have a $45 to $55 range. We also compared our parking rates to what's in the private structures that are downtown Glendale. And as you can see, the hourly rate is $5 the highest. The average is about $3 average, and the minimum is $1.50. That's the city rate, essentially. Pretty much all the private structures have a higher hourly rate. And our hourly daily maximum is also the lowest, $6. The average is $8.66, and the maximum is $12. And the monthly rates ranges from $45 to $90. And the $45 rate is the minimum, basically, City of Glendale, and there's 1 or 2 lots that are operating at a lower rate. What we're recommending for the parking structures is to raise the hourly rate for the Marketplace Exchange from $1.50 to $2, a 50-cent increase per hour. We're recommending that we keep them daily maximum the same at $6 for these 2 structures. And we're recommending that we change the monthly rate for the Marketplace, which is at $45, $5 an hour for the next 3 years. So we reach $60. The Exchange currently is at $55. We're recommending that we change it to $60, just a $5 increase. Orange Street, we're recommending that we keep given that its occupancy is low, and we're trying to attract more employees, visitors to Orange Street. We want to keep the hourly rate the same. We're not we don't think it's a good idea when you're not getting a lot of customers to increase the rates. So keep the rate at $1.50 and the daily max to $6. What we're also recommending that we lower the monthly rate. Instead of $45 currently, that only some of the banks and some of the major companies in the area via some agreements with redevelopment agency are paying the $45 rate. And we also have what we call a part-time rate, which is $30 for 120 hours of parking per month. So you can pay $30 if you have a part-time employee. You get up to 120 hours of parking in the structure within the month. You can use it all in the first 2 weeks. You can spread it over entire month. Also, recently, City Council entered into an agreement with the Glendale Career College to provide parking from the Glendale Career College that's going in on Brand Boulevard, and that would be at the rate of $30. So we figured, what if we just lower the rate at $30 for all the new employees? There's a lot of part-time employees. The businesses along Brand that have part-time employees, or they're small retail stores, they cannot afford to pay the $45 or $55 rates. Provide them an opportunity to park in the Orient Street garage. Also, given the fact that we're metering the Brand Boulevard, they're not going to be parking on street. We're changing the rates in the lots, making them a little higher. Our concern is that these employees start filtering into the neighborhoods in the residential street. So the pricing for Orient Street is our strategy is to make it reasonable cost so that we can attract those employees rather than try to find spaces in the residential streets and take on-street parking away. Come and park in the Orient Street garage. If they park for 20 days, it's almost $1.50 a day, which is a fairly good rate for them. So that would be our strategy for this. Plus, we are attracting Orient Street's not being used as much. We will evaluate that rate, and if we're getting all of a sudden a large number of employees who want to park in the Orient Street garage, we can almost limit the number of monthly parking spaces that we sell. And those spaces also, based on input from the merchants, will be all on the top levels. So the first 2-3 levels will be reserved for the transient parking. The customers can park there. Along with this, I think what's also important right now, we have a validation program that if you go and shop in one of the businesses that participates in the parking validation program in the city, you get a 2-hour free parking. So you can walk in there, and if you buy a coffee, they stamp your ticket, you get 2 hours of free parking. But not every merchant participates in the program, and there is sometimes some abuses as a result of that. So what we're recommending that we go with a 90-minute free parking for everybody. So if you park in the Orient Street garage, Marketplace garage, or Exchange, automatically you get 90-minute free parking. So for 2 hours, essentially the cost of parking will be only $1, because the first 90 minutes is free. If we raise the rate to $2, you get $1 free for parking. Okay.
This is a different program from the theater validation program.
That's right.
Which is 4 hours, $1.
Right. City has agreements with the theaters as part of the development that they get that 4-hour parking for $1. In fact, that $1 is actually doesn't even cost the customer $1. If you park in the Exchange, the Marketplace, and you go to their theaters, you get $1 discount from a theater on your ticket, and on the way out you pay that $1. So basically it costs, there's no cost to it. So we're maintaining that same theater validation will be the same, but we're removing the 2-hour validation because the merchants have to come into the city right now by a validator. They have to put a deposit down. Not everybody participates in it. And people forget to validate their ticket, and they come out the exit, they say, oh, I shopped, I forgot to validate. So this way, everybody gets the 90-minute free validation. And interestingly, about 68% of the parkers, transient parkers or visitors, they park less than 2 hours, approximately 2 hours. So all they're going to cost is, with the increase in the rates, really there's not a hardship to the visitors. It's only $1 that they would have to pay if they park for 2 hours. If they park for more than 2 hours, they pay $3, for example, because the first hour is an hour and a half is going to be free. So that is what we're recommending, 90-minute free parking. That would be part of our recommendation for the proposed parking rates in all the structures. $2 per hour for the marketplace exchange structure. We're keeping the Orange Street rates the same. The daily max doesn't change in all the structures. And we're increasing the marketplace $5 a month for the monthly parking up to $60. So that would kick in January of 2000 and potentially 2009. So for 3 years, that would be the rates. And exchange will be at 60. We'll keep it at 60. We'll do an evaluation every year. We'll come back to the commission if we think that those rates are high or low. We'll come back to the commission and make a recommendation to change them. The hours of operation of the structures doesn't change. It will maintain the hours of currently what we are operating the structures. Another thing that staff is recommending that the City Council approve, and we're requesting Commission's recommendation for that, is currently we get requests, for example, from merchants that all of a sudden there was a certain type of retail store, like it's a hair salon, and all of a sudden it changed to a different type of a business. And right now we have a 2-hour parking, but they want a 1-hour parking. Right now we have to come to the commission, write a staff report for 1 meter or 2 meters or that. Or they want to change the hours of operation on that block. All the merchants are agreeable to that. And it takes a long time to go to the commission, go to the City Council. What we're requesting that City Council authorize the Director of Public Works or his designee, after doing the evaluation, getting consensus from the merchants or the Merchant Association, that we are able to change the time limits and hours of operation for on-street or off-street parking meters. By the same token, in a parking lot, for example, if there's a bakery there and they want certain number of the spaces to be changed to 30-minute parking because they have a lot of people go in and out, right now we have to go through that same process, and it takes a long time, at least 3 to 4 months. By the time we get agendized, we have to amend the municipal code. It takes a lot of time to do that. To be customer-friendly and streamline the process, we'd like to have that opportunity. Of course, if we're going to make any wholesale change, large changes in the hours of operation, the time limits, we'll bring that to the commission through all the public process outreach and get the commission's recommendation before we go to the City Council. The other...
I'm sorry, John, that needs to be reflected in the municipal code though, right?
Right. That would be changes that if the commission recommends and council approves, the language for that will be in the municipal code. That will give us the authority to do so.
And is there some specific number you have in mind that constitutes a large-scale change?
You know, if we were, let's say, you take a whole block of Rand Boulevard, for example, that, you know, it will have an impact because we know that could have some merchants for it, some merchants against it. If it's a whole parking lot that we have to make changes, from time to time in the parking lots, you want certain spaces to be 1 hour, 2 hour. And we try not to make the changes, make it confusing. To the extent possible, we don't want to change it because the signage becomes confusing. And now we're going to go to pay stations in the lots. That might be, in fact, a little easier because you can program the pay station to say, you know, space number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are 30 minutes. So when you go to pay, you'll know that those spaces can only allow you to park for 30 minutes. But under the current situation where we have individual meters, you have to sign every single meter. And that makes it a little confusing. So that's to the extent of it. In any case, we'll notify we'll inform the commission of if any particular changes. But if it's a large-scale change, we'll bring it to the commission. Another thing that we'd like to get approval from the commission is, from City Council actually, is there are many events in the downtown that occurs that most of them are city events or organizations are working with the city, like the Unity Fest. The Alex Theater has separate special shows that are for the city. The city is participating in that. We're inviting a lot of people to attend. The cruise night is another good example, or nonprofit organizations that have a special event that benefits the city. They come to the city, and because they're nonprofit, they don't have a high budget. they request that the parking fees to be waived, or we provide free parking for for their employees or staff. And we'd like to have City Council authorize the city manager that, we'll prepare a memo to city manager. Currently, that's how we do it, but it's informal, that the City Council authorize the city manager that in those cases, because it may happen next week, and there's no time to go to council, go to the commission. On a case-by-case basis, we'll justify the waiving of the fees or providing a low-rate parking. We've had situation where we provided a $1 flat rate parking instead of a $6 daily max. And the city manager approves it, then we can proceed and implement that at a quick turnaround time, instead of doing it on, it takes a report or a memo to go to the commission and to the city council. So that's the recommendation that also we have, that if council approves it, that will be in the municipal code.
John, on this subject, if it's a large-scale event and it warrants the activation of the traffic management center on a weekend, and normally we don't, and now you need to staff it, have we had instances where the fees are waived for those services?
No. With the only time we really did that was with the opening of the Americana, and we basically staffed the traffic operations center. But we are in discussions with the Americana and with the Galleria for the upcoming year that we budget be set aside so that on a regular basis, on an annual basis, we know in that time of the year we're going to staff it and what the cost is. The police department has also a major impact because they have a lot of police officers that have to work on those holiday dates or on weekends. So that's under discussion. But this will be just on a case-by-case for parking only.
Okay. And is there going to be criteria of non-profit versus for-profit events, or waive only non-profit?
In most cases, we're not necessarily waiving, because non-profits do events that does not essentially benefit the city. So its criteria would be if it's really an event that benefits the city, the community is involved in it, and it basically covers a large group population of the city, that would be when we waive we will totally waive the fee for parking. In most cases, we've asked them to pay a flat rate, or if they're using only a certain number of parking spaces, that they pay the hourly rate for those spaces for a number of hours, and we calculate that and we ask them to pay for it.
One recommendation that I have, and Ms. Sansone, you might want to listen to this one. I know you're listening to everything. I know other cities where it got out of control completely, and for profit, for non-profit, and what started happening, either the city manager or council started selectively waiving fees for some and not for others, and they were slapped with lawsuits, and now they're in a situation where they completely, either you stop the program, and that was from their attorney's office recommendation, or you waive the fees for everybody. And they're reforming the process to do that. So before we start waiving fees, I think there needs to be criteria that's in writing approved by and looked at by the attorney's office.
Yeah, we will. We can put together a criteria, specifically the city events that are already programmed every year that we know, and then if it's a nonprofit organization, we can come up with a criteria. As I said, generally what we've used is if it benefits the city, it's important for the community, it's a large-scale event. Not every single nonprofit that has a small party that is next to a parking lot, we have not waived the fees for them. Most of the events been things like happening that city was sponsoring an event at the Alex Theater, and we waived or we gave a flat fee for that. Cruise Night is a major event that the city sponsors involved in it. So there has been a few nonprofit events that the city has been involved in it, not being the lead on that, and we can definitely put together a criteria that not every event is going to be.
Yeah. Filming is another issue also, where, they like the major highways. Brand Boulevard could be one of them, where, they come and they ask for a permit, of course, and take away 20, 25 meters. I know some cities, they charge you $25 per meter if you occupy it. Some cities, they waive the fees. And I know the movie industry now, they like Glendale. And I wouldn't be surprised if it starts going up.
In most filming permits, they go through a special event permit through the city clerk's office, and each department assesses a fee. We use what we call a street use permit. So if they're using the street for the purposes of filming, we charge them per linear feet, for example, for that purpose. In most cases, they're taking a parking space. So if there's a revenue loss also, we can add that to it. Most cases on filming permits, we charge them for it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just wanted to comment that this is a problem not just with meters, but with the use of the street in general. And it even is for an issue we're dealing with on banners, street banners, so who can advertise, who cannot. So it is an issue, we're well aware of it, and that's why it'll be important to have some kind of criteria in the ordinance that addresses who does,
And who doesn't.
get those free meters and who doesn't.
Great. Great.
This summarizes for the on-street meters what we're recommending, changing the rates from 60 cents to $1. We're keeping the time limits as is. We're not making any changes. Changing the operating hours from to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And days of operation, essentially Monday through Saturday, for the non-brand streets, and then brand will be 7 days a week. And then in the parking lots, as I stated, lot 6 and 10, also we're recommending that they be 7 days a week. The rates for the lots will be 75 cents, keeping the 3-hour rates. And then lot 4 will be 3 hours, subject to our negotiations with the property owner as part of the lease to make that change. In the structures, the 2 structures will be raise the hourly rate to from $1.50 to $2, and the daily max will be the same. The monthly rate for marketplace will go up $5 a month to $60 in 3 years. Exchange rate will just go up $5 to $60, and we're lowering the rate for the Orient Street Garage in order to attract more parkers there, and keeping the hourly and daily max the same. We're not making any changes there. Our next steps after we receive commission recommendation tonight will be to go to the City Council on September 30th. We'll put that on the agenda to receive their input. We're not asking Council at this to approve or amend the ordinance. We'd like to get their input to make sure that if we modify the ordinance, Council is okay with it based on the commission recommendation. So on the 30th, we'll get Council input based on the commission recommendation. Then we'll modify the municipal ordinance, go back to Council depending on the availability of Council agenda on the 14th or the 21st to get their approval. And then we'll start the implementation of the parking meters on Brand Boulevard as the first step. We'll install the meters. Our goal is in the first week of November to have the meters up and running on Brand Boulevard before the holiday season begins. Then we will start the implementation of the rest of the changes for the lots and so on. So there's not a big change all at once at the same time. But our primary goal is to do in the first 2 weeks of November, have the pay stations or multi-space meters on Brand Boulevard up and running. And then we'll have a marketing plan. We're planning to have parking ambassadors during that time frame on Brand Boulevard as we put the pay stations there, so people will be standing there. People who don't know how to operate the pay station, they'll be able to go. They'll receive assistance, and we'll do a lot of information things. And then at the same time, we'll come up with a warning method that if people get citations in the first 2 weeks, once the pay stations are installed, they're not going to get a ticket, they'll get a warning, so that, we'll make it as friendly as possible as part of the implementation. That's what other cities have done when they put in new pay stations on street.
How long is that period?
Up to 2 weeks. I want to say up to 2 weeks. We have to get input from our police department to see how far. Because the longer you make it, then the abuse starts. Because the people think that, okay, it's not being enforced for 3 weeks, so I'll go park there and take a chance. So maximum 2 weeks. On the average is about a week where you give people a warning. But we will have people out there with our parking operators to assist people with the operation of the pay station, although it's pretty simple to operate, and it's becoming very popular in other cities as well. We think we can, make it work a lot easier, and implementation will go smoother.
I would also recommend, John, something televised on our channel.
Yeah, we're putting together a video that would show how the pay station looks, how it works. A typical person will go and put money in it using either their debit card, or they can put coin in it. How to, remember your space number, what space number you parked, and, how to put the money, what the increments are. All of those will be part of a video that we're currently preparing. Also, there will be flyers and maps that would show the location. And the advantage with the pay station is you can park any block of brand. Wherever you park, you pay for it. Let's say you paid for 1 hour. If you went to the next block, you can still go to another pay station rather than go back to 100 block, for example. Put your space number, you can put additional fees on it. The pay station is also capable via cell phone. You can set up an account where you can actually pay with your cell phone. So those are all the different features that the pay stations provide.
So they're space-specific, the pay station?
Yes, they will pay by space. Essentially, all the spaces on Brand Boulevard will be numbered. It will be on the face of the curb, and on the top of the curb, there will be signage that will be visible, that as you park, you'll know that you have to pay a machine. And we're putting in about 3 pay stations, almost 3 pay stations per block face. So at the maximum, every 5 to 6 spaces, there's a pay station close by that you can go and park and pay.
That's similar to Pasadena?
That's somewhat similar to Pasadena.
I'm just curious, what about the handicap spaces?
Those are not going to be paying, no charge for that.
It's free?
It's free.
Mr. Chair, I have a few questions to ask.
Is the presentation done, John?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Lot number 11, I'm just a little confused why that one is still being considered a 9-hour lot, considering how close it is to the Americana and the library. It's the one that's right below Colorado, just around the corner from Brand.
It's this lot here.
Yeah, it's still listed as a 9-hour lot.
This one is off of Colorado, and that lot is called what we call the Armory lot. It's next to the Armory. And the use of that lot is not that much, and so we will monitor it, and if there's any changes in that, we can always change it. But it's always used for businesses in this area for parking. It's used by the Armory also, employees in this area. Some of the auto dealers sometimes park here also, but in most cases we monitor the occupancy of that, and it is good for long-term parking.
Okay.
There are no really retail areas that are around there that needs for 3-hour parking.
And so why did you make it 7-day operation for the lots and the meters just in certain locations? Why didn't you consider doing that for all of the lots?
Again, just to be somewhat customer friendly, Sundays the parking lots are not used as much, and so we wanted to provide traditionally in many cities, you relax the parking rates or the hours of operation on weekends, mostly on Sundays. City of LA has a lot of that. Beverly Hills has a lot of that. But certain streets that are very busy, retail areas, restaurant, and entertainment, that you operate them 7 days a week. So for that reason, we kept Brand 7 days a week. We're recommending the Brand be 7 days a week. And the 2 lots, 6 and lot 11, lot 10, that are close to, one is close to Americana Central Library that is always being used. The other one is next to, behind Portos, near the Center Theater. That's also being used on weekends. And another reason for keeping those hours, it's because it impacts, we're encouraging people to go in those because there's valet parking operations also, like Lot 11. There's a number of banquet facilities in the area, and currently after 6 p.m. they park the vehicles in the city lots. And we're trying to prevent that. So if we can extend the hours till 10 p.m., they won't be able to park there. We will then be able to work with them to arrange that they've parked their vehicles in the city parking structures. We have room for them. They will have to pay a fee. Right now, and some of them do not pay a fee. So that was the real strategy. Because on banquet facilities around on Maryland and on Glendale Avenue, they take advantage of the library lots because sometimes they have weddings or they have, I don't know, different events that is during the day,
Right.
and the library is open. So that's why we wanted to extend it to lot number 11 and lot number 6 here. The rest of them don't get as much use on weekends, so we said, I mean, obviously Commission can recommend that we do that, but traditionally the parking usage of those lots haven't been that heavy. If we put meters on Brand and we see that there's a problem on the lots, also on Sundays, we can always come back to the Commission and recommend that we include Sundays as well.
Okay. Now, the garages, Orange, Exchange, and Marketplace, the hours of operation start at 8 a.m. Are the garages themselves actually open earlier than that?
Yes, we open at 6 a.m.
You open at 6 a.m.
And then we pretty much close at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Okay. And the rate now, I'm sure I, like many people, have often been stuck on Brand behind cars waiting for a car to pull out into one of those free lots, spaces. Can we even consider raising the rate even higher on Brand, just on Brand, at least in the central core there, around all the retail, or perhaps, did you look at that at all, or?
We looked at that as far as, given the fact we've never had meters on Brand, and there's always been an issue if you put meters on Brand, they will impact the businesses, and so number of years I've been in City of Glendale would try to put meters on Brand, and there was always some resistance from the merchants. Now that the merchants have agreed that that's a good idea, it's impacting them, we thought we start with $1, okay? In the mobility plan, there was recommendation is that we try to achieve an 85% occupancy on Brand. So with the $1 rate on Brand, if we do not achieve it, that occupancy rate, that you still have to really look for parking, I think that's the time to look at raising the rate. Maybe go up a quarter, go to $1.50 an hour. That way you can again push those short-term parkers into the lots and then into the structures. But I would recommend that we start with $1 right now. And we will be monitoring the occupancy on Brand, and if we're not achieving that 85% occupancy, I think raising the rate is a very good incentive to do that, so that it could force people. The more expensive the parking is, people start looking for cheaper parking, and they will relieve that on-street parking on Brand.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. I'll start the easy parts first. Regarding the pay stations, the problem that I have with Pasadena, it's very hard to read at night. So, is it a little bit more high def? Do I have an LED in the back on the display? Is it digital?
Yes. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a pay station here today. We tried to give you an example of how the pay station for the city works, but the reason we selected the digital technology, which is the manufacturer of this particular pay station, first of all, it has a color display,
okay,
which is much better than the black and white
right.
LCDs that you see. It's much larger, it's very visible, and it's visible at night. I mean, it's better. You can have better visibility at night than during the day. So that was one of the major advantages we selected the digital technology for Glendale.
Okay. And regarding paying, it accepts bills and coins, and what type of coins would it accept? Does it accept only bills? All bills?
We're recommending that we only use the coins and debit cards. Most of the cities who've installed them, they try to shy away from bills. It is a problem as best as right now that machines that they can read, dollar bills or $5 bills, still they jam, cause problems. So with majority, about more than 60% of the transactions are using ATM cards, like everybody else is using it. So the machine is capable that we can install the dollar bill or $5 bill acceptors. But we're recommending that we just go with coins and debit cards.
And what kind of coins? Just quarters or dimes?
Yeah, it accepts quarters and dimes.
Because the one in Pasadena only accepts quarters, and sometimes people don't have enough quarters.
Yeah.
They
will accept, quarters, dimes, and nickels. And dollar. Dollar plates.
Oh, from Vegas. Right. All right. And you said earlier about we'll have every 5 businesses or within a block, every 5 businesses will have a pay station, or every block?
On Brand Boulevard,
from Doran to
essentially on every block face, we will have 2 or 3 pay stations. There will be, about 1/3 from the beginning of the block in, and 1 in the middle, and 1/3 from the end of the block, on each block face.
Oh, great, okay.
So essentially you would have to walk 5 or 6 spaces to get to a pay station.
Okay. And then the signage you just mentioned earlier, beginning of the program, you'll have 2 types of signage, the one that will be displayed on the street and the one that will maybe display on a pay station, regarding what the rates are, or directions where to park if they want to park in a parking lot. How are you going to work on the signage?
With respect to the pay stations, there's a couple of things we're going to do. Each parking space will have its own number. There will be a number on the curb. Then there will be signs that are on the light posts on Brand Boulevard that tells you that the hours of operation, and it will say, note your parking space and pay at the pay station. So there will be arrows pointing to the direction of the pay station. On top of the pay station itself, it will have a sign that says pay here. We're working on the graphics of the sign, so I don't have that here today. So it'll be very visible, and the signs that we'll have on the pay station, it will be from 3, you can see it from 3 sides. If you're walking on the sidewalk or you're from the street, you will see where you have to pay. It will be very visible, okay? And then the rates will actually be in the machine itself. You do not display the rates on the sign. You go to the machine, it will tell you as you walk through the keying in, like say if you want to park for 1 hour, it will ask you how much you want to park, and it will say $1. And then you press that button, and it will give you a ticket that will show you paid for that parking space.
Okay.
And then you can add time to it if you wanted to later on.
Okay. And then regarding the parking lots, the Exchange, the Marketplace, and the one on Orange, is the Exchange and Marketplace is the one we don't have an issue? It's always full. It's always packed.
No, actually, the Exchange, we're running about 50% of its capacity. The Marketplace is about 50%. It gets a little higher during the holidays, so we have enough capacity here. Orange Street is about 30% of its capacity that is currently operating. So with that's the reason we've been able to accommodate like auto dealers that they wanted to store their vehicles during their construction.
Right.
We park them in these structures. But we do have enough capacity in these structures currently to accommodate the loads that we have.
Okay, that was my next question. Regarding, I'd like to talk about Orange. The one on Orange, and any businesses beside the school coming up sometimes next year, any other businesses who are parking in its structure?
We have some of the, there are some retail spaces on Orange or lease spaces on Orange that we're allowing them to park in the Orange part of their lease agreements. And right now, that's all we have. Plus the Glendale Career College, the council approved. I mean, that was I think it's about 112 monthly parking spaces.
112.
But those 112 are not going to be there all at the same time because it's based on a class schedule, so it could vary from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. because it goes all around.
Right.
So not at all times you won't have 112 parkers in the structure.
And during the weekend, I don't think they have any schools. right?
Weekends, they may have some
Right.
classes, but not going to be that much.
What is the maximum space that Orange can handle?
Orange has 625.
625. Do any of these parking lots have cameras?
We have security cameras that we have in the marketplace. We're working on security cameras for Orange and Exchange Structure.
And that will be located at every level or just an exit?
Yes, well, strategically located so you can monitor it for security.
Right, that's my main concern. Okay. And then the last subject I'd like to talk about, since you mentioned earlier there's a possibility for Lot 4 to go to 4 hours.
3 hours.
No, sorry, 6, Lot 6, which is next to the theater.
Right. It won't go to 4 hours. Essentially, what we're thinking of doing is we're going to go till 6 p.m., 3-hour parking, so that we can satisfy the current needs there. After 6 p.m. will be essentially an hourly parking. So you can pay 1 hour additional as you park after 6 p.m.
What's the maximum?
So you can 4 hours.
Okay.
We'll not change it to a 4-hour lot. It will be hourly after 6 p.m.
My recommendation, I mean, that's my take on this. Lot 2317, which is right beyond Alex Theater and a bunch of restaurant rows. Even though you said earlier that they can go to Alex Theater and they can validate with $1 and park at Orange Street, to have the same type of rates that folks who go on Lot 6 to go after 6 p.m. to an hour, right, because there's a bunch of restaurants, roads, and the public will be confused. I mean, it's a matter of getting used to it, but I think for me, Orange is much further than Lot 4, 3, and 2, or 17, close to Alex Theater than Orange Street, and there's a lot of also old folks who go to the Alex Theater. I mean, we should be at least consistent, same as Lot 6, and go an extra hours after 6 p.m. That's my recommendation. I could see that. I think I've been there a couple times, and I think 3 hours is very short if you're going to go to have dinner after the theater. And I could park on Orange, but I'm talking to the rest of the folks. And how soon are we going to have cameras on Orange? Is it after the implementation or before?
Well, right now we have a security in the garage.
Until 2 a.m.?
Yes, we have a security that drives through the parking structure and looks at the vehicles, and so that there is a security right now in all the garages, in addition to the security cameras that we have at the marketplace. As part of capital projects, we are going to install cameras in the structure. So essentially, from a security standpoint, we feel that it's a pretty safe structure. It's well lit at night. We haven't had any issues in any of these structures.
That's my question. Why is the security becoming a subject? Is there a high rate of theft at Orange that you know of?
I think, in my opinion, I think most people, I mean, I'm not saying, it's not it could be. Most people who like to park on the street, they feel safer. I mean, I'm talking from a layman's term. Someone who has a nightlife on brand and goes to the parking lot at 11, 12 o'clock midnight will not be, will have some concern. I'm just saying, if there was like you mentioned earlier, if we have a security person until 2 a.m., which is, I didn't know about that, and having cameras will be a little more assurance, and people will be more willing to park on Orange vis-a-vis parking on brand.
As I said, we haven't had, I mean, there's always in any structure, cars get stolen and or broken into that, and you cannot catch them. But in general, overall, we've had a pretty safe operation of these garages. They said we do pay for security in our new contract. We've requested the security be subcontracted out to a security company. So
I've never seen it, John.
Because they rove every hour. They have these golf carts. They go through the structure, and they're required to monitor the structure. In this upcoming contract that we're awarding, we're actually asking a security company, do the security
Station?
for us. It's not a station. Again, it's an actually security guard instead of an employee of the parking operator to do the security of the structure. So we feel comfortable. In addition, we're looking into putting in cameras. So it'll take some time to do that, but the combination, I think, will provide the best.
Right.
It's not an issue. I mean, we haven't had an issue.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the future. If we can have cameras, if there's a possibility to have cameras before we implement, that would be great. Because I think most people who park on Brand is for peace of mind, especially at night. I'm talking about the nightlife. The security, if he's going to go every 1 hour, it's not, my opinion, it's not that assurance. Generally speaking, people would like to be safe when they park their cars.
Okay.
That's my input, and if we can work on the lot, I don't know how my colleague feels, 2, 3, and 17, make it something similar to lots 4.
When
6, sorry.
When we come to vote on the motion, then we'll discuss your recommendation. But any other questions?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Just wanted to bring up some more issues about the pay stations. Again, as has already been mentioned, my main experience has been with the ones I've seen in Pasadena. And it's not only when it's dark that they are difficult to read, but in very bright sunlight. Sometimes you have to put your hand to shade the screen to be able to read it. So that's also a concern that those are legible. The other thing I've noticed at the pay stations in Pasadena is it's not always easy to tell how to work it if you've never seen one before. And so especially in a situation where there's only one pay station in a lot, sometimes you'll get a line forming because the person at the front has no idea how to make the machine do what he wants to do. And you get a crowd of impatient people behind. I'm hoping that the fact that you're going to have multiple pay stations within a block will help solve that problem. Somebody might have to walk a little further if one of them is maybe has a line forming at it, or possibly if one of them is out of order, they would be able to use the one of the additional pay stations on that block. I don't know if the pay station manufacturer provides any kind of, human factors engineering information or anything like that. Do they have testing that they do to ensure that most people are capable of using the device without having to, fumble around or spend time reading a lot of instructions? So.
We looked at 5 different companies that are actually manufacturing these pay stations, and your comments about the pay stations in Pasadena, we visited those, we got input from them, we looked at all the cities that have this type of pay stations, and the reason we selected digital technology is exactly for those reasons. I mean, the display is larger than the other ones, and it's color, so you can see it during daylight, and you look at it at night. You can see it better at night. Our current parking meter crew that maintains all the pay station parking meters in Glendale. We also maintain the parking meters for City of West Hollywood. West Hollywood has these same pay stations that we do. We recommend. We already ordered, and they're very familiar with them. And our crew that knows in and out of these pay stations was very happy that we're choosing them because of those reasons. The steps you take in terms of walks you through is like an ATM machine. That you want to take money out of your checking account, put in your PIN number, put in your space number. I mean, it's the same sequence where it's very easy. It guides you for every step, so you don't have to really look at the machine and try to figure out what to do. And that's, I know,
some
in
people
my experience,
have trouble with ATM machines.
Yeah,
too,
that's true.
No,
that's true. So at the initial part of it, we have a marketing plan that we will have parking ambassadors in each block, basically try to help people to get used to it. Of course, the new person will come and may not know that. For that reason, actually, we went out, we put in more than typically you put one pay station for 8 to 10 parking spaces. The way we laid them out, it goes to 5 to 6, knowing that Brand is going to get busy and people don't like to wait, pay, and then go to their parking and do their thing. So.
Also wanted to ask you a question regarding the 85% occupancy rate for structures, or I guess it's for the structures and the off-street lots as well. I guess I'm asking how you calculate the 85% occupancy rate.
Okay, on the just the simplest way to look at it is when a parking structure in the industry, if it's 85% occupied, pretty much you're getting close to full occupancy. That means you're really, if it's a structure, you're driving in that structure trying to find a parking space. The same thing is on street. You're really, you have to drive around to find a parking space. But 85% on a busy main street is a good occupancy to have, so that there is 1 or 2 spaces or 3 spaces available on the block for you to park. What we do hourly parking surveys, and we see how many spaces are available. With the pay stations, it will give us that data because we're going to know how much each parking space is generating, and eventually the technology is going to be there to actually give you occupancy for each space. That's in the works for the future. But we will do counts and find out how much each space is occupied to see what that occupancy is.
And the last question I had to do with a statement in the staff report regarding the signage for the Orange Street structure, and that there was some indication that it had been ineffective in getting people there. And I was wondering what the plans were for more effective signage for Orange.
In the mobility plan, there was a major recommendation to improve the signage that guides people to the structures and installing wayfinding signs. So with the redevelopment agency staff and planning department, we're working on developing a signage program for the downtown that is not only for the parking structures but also for main attractions in the downtown, so it's consistent, it's visible, it's large enough so that if you're coming down Brand Boulevard, it will give you directions to surface lots or parking structures, and it's not confusing. So that's also in the works. In the next, I would say about 6 months, I think we should have the wayfinding signs installed, if not at least designed and ordered so that we can implement them.
Okay, thanks.
One more question, Jono. Regarding numbering on the street, would that be also, I'm assuming it's going to be readable, but if it's black and on a cement, it's very hard to read at night. Are we planning to have some kind of a...
These are special numbers, then the numbers are black and white, right? Black background
and
with
white
writing.
Oh, I see, okay. And regarding the pay station again, if someone parks very far, like Mr. Commissioner Weissman mentioned, I can use any pay station,
yes.
Either block?
Yes, you can go in the 100 block of Brand,
okay,
walk up to 300 block of Brand, and you're shopping, you want to, put another hour on your pay, on your space, walk to any of the pay station, put your number in, and you pay.
Okay. And the last question is, about 3 weeks ago, I went to the Century City Mall, and it's, I believe, managed by Westfield, and their parking structure was very interesting. They had, I'm envisioning...
Counters?
What is it?
Space counters?
Yeah, they have a sensor, and it just tells you way down the line that they're all red. That means they're all occupied. If there's a green light, you have a spot. You don't have to drive around for hours just to find parking.
Americana is that?
Americana has the same. Yeah, Americana. No, I mean the Americana parking structure here also has that. Those are for new structure. It's easier to do that because you need to have a way of measuring how many cars went in and how many cars went out per level. When you have a continuous parking levels that you go up to the top level, and come back down, it becomes harder to do an accurate count. Because if you can put sensors to count the cars, but if you're going the wrong direction, the sensor was still counted.
I wasn't talking about that. I think what they had at Century City, they had in each parking space, they had a sensor on top. So as a customer, if I come in the parking lot, and if there's 2 rows or 3 rows down the line, I could see if they're occupied or not occupied, but just looking on the ceiling, if there's a red light or a green light. Green light indicates that there's space, and red light indicates that it's occupied. Versus what you just said, it counts the number of cars as you walk, per level.
Well, certainly we'll look into it. Again, there's a lot of new technology to do these things.
I suggest you look into it when you're at 85% occupancy. At 50% occupancy,
I know.
save the money, spend it somewhere else.
Right. But there's, as I said, there's a lot of technology available. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but your structure gets full, you start doing those kinds of things so that you can free up the spaces or guide the person instead of drive around first level, so you can go, third level automatically, or the rooftop, find a parking space.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm done.
Okay, couple of comments from my side. The bottom line is people want to park as close as possible to where they're going. That's a no-brainer. So if we want to encourage parking at the Warren structure, and I brought this up during the mobility plan, you should have some type of shuttle service serving the businesses, maybe up and down Brand Boulevard, maybe have a loop that goes by the Orange Garage, maybe hit the Exchange, come down. But that's one way of increasing the occupancy in the remote lots, and Orange is farther than the other 2 lots. But I have no doubt that as the city is growing, and that's going to start getting higher occupancy. The approach of having the structures cheaper, it's excellent. It is the right approach. Although personally, I feel it's a bargain, but I think that it's a good start. And as people get used to using those structures, then we'll reassess and maybe raise the fees. By the way, what's the rate at the Americana right now?
Americana their maximum is $9, and the hourly rate is $2. And there is a validation, but it's if you shop, I think $250 or more you get.
Then you get a validation.
And not necessarily everybody participate in the validation program.
Okay. So I would really encourage, I didn't know it's at 30%, John, that would be a concern of mine, the Orange Law, 30%. I'm really surprised it's covering the cost of operation.
It's close. It's minimal that it generates, but that's one of the areas that the other 2 structures basically generate more in the monthly and the transient parking that covers our operating costs at the Orange Street. Again, with some of the uses that will go in that area with the career college students parking and so on.
That's where it's going to go up.
Some of them is just going to increase the occupancy. So that's what we felt if we were to keep the rates as is, people are not going there.
No.
They're finding cheaper parking elsewhere.
Maybe approaching some of the big businesses like Nestle and above 50 or 100 employees and discussing with them, the rates which we're offering, they're very reasonable. Maybe shuttle operation that stops at these businesses. I'm not saying the city should provide the shuttle, but maybe, a pool of money can be put together from these private businesses. And just during rush hour, AM and PM, it doesn't have to be the whole day. When employees get there, 15 or 20 passenger van or a couple of them doing rounds and servicing these high rises or employment centers. But 30%, that would really concern me. It's a nice parking lot. I've parked there before. It's one of the best we have in the city. It's the newest one that we have in the city. And I think we should really look at it as a money generator, especially in these budget crisis. So, but I think you guys are doing the right thing. You're on the right track. As far as Lot 6 versus 2317, I think Lot 6 is different as far as who parks there, what type of, the demographics of the lot is a little different. I understand the recommendation that you brought up, but my position on it would be, this is a trial and test period, and there's no ifs and buts. We're going to get feedback, and staff will basically monitor and observe the operations, and that's why you're asking from council to basically give you the liberty not to go back to council on every single minor issue, to be able to change the hours on your own and implement it immediately. So I would recommend, although it's a good recommendation, I would recommend to keep it as is and then reassess, come back in 2-3 months to the commission and tell us what's happening. If need to be, we need to bring in your recommendation and implement it, do it at that time.
I think we'd like to get, rather than do a wholesale change all at once, if we keep things the way they are on a lot-by-lot basis, make the changes, it might be better overall for all the merchants and the businesses and the restaurants. But we'd like to go ahead with this. It's a change, big change already, and see how things happen. I think the metering the Brand Boulevard will change a lot of things, because that will see influx of employees, and their employees are very, very smart. They'll find the cheapest parking, the free parking somewhere. One thing that as an issue that was addressed in the mobility plan is we may end up actually implementing preferential permit parking program all around the downtown as a large area-wide preferential parking. But that was a recommendation with the concern that employees not even want to pay $30 in Orange Street or anywhere else. They'll find the on-street parking spaces, and we'll start getting complaints from the residents, like we do near the south of Colorado, basically because of the auto dealers. We have a number of streets there that over the years we've put in preferential parking because the auto dealer employees park in the residential streets. So once you put meters and you extend the hours, there's a good chance that employees try to get into the residential areas, which we do have in the downtown area. So we may come to the commission and say, to push the employees back into the lots or the structures, you have to do preferential parking. This is very similar to the Glendale Community College. When the college built the new structures, we had students parking all over the residential streets around the college. So we did a major preferential parking zone on every street within pretty much a couple miles of the college, to force the student to buy the monthly parking permit to park in the college or the city lots. So that's the next step. But rather than go forward and do the preferential parking, because now the resident has to buy a permit, they have to pay for it, and every year has to be renewed, that becomes an inconvenience and it will be bad for the residents. We figured, let's do it this way. We will monitor and see what happens. For example, if those two lots become an impacted lot, people want to park there for 4 hours, we can change the hours of operation for one lot at a time and adjust it. Our goal is to make it consistent. So all these lots you park, it's 3 hours. Park till 10 p.m. on street, off street. So it's very easy for a visitor coming to downtown. They see one sign, it's consistent, so there's not a lot of changes. Right now our signage is you park in the lots, there's a variety of signage, hours, and it's kind of confusing.
You better
I'd like
read
to
the
clean
sign
it all
now.
up. So that would be your recommendation.
Okay.
How far on Brand, Jano, are we going to implement the 2-hour parking lot?
We're going from
Warren to what?
Colorado all the way to Milford.
All the way to Milford?
Yeah.
And it's only on Brand? It's not going to be covered in Central Glendale Avenue?
There are, wherever there is existing on-street meters, we're just changing the rates for those, and we're changing the hours of operation till 10 p.m.
Now, getting back at what Mr. Chair said, the delta is only 1 hour, and 2 hours to 3 hours. And my experience has been Pasadena. I think Pasadena is one of the, to me, really tough to park to begin with. Second, the hours are too short, and I've seen a lot of people coming out and putting more meters, more more coins on it just to stay for an extra an hour to 2
But
hours.
for a good reason, and you know why. And the parking manager used to be a good friend of mine. Their structures are at maximum occupancy.
Right.
Their
That's-
parking structures are at maximum occupancy because of the rates, if that's what you're hinting, on street parking.
Versus ours is not.
30% occupancy is
right.
ridiculous.
Right.
50% occupancy for the marketplace or for the exchange, that's also ridiculous.
I think the strategy is, as I said, make the brand expensive, and as Commissioner Wells stated, we may even have to raise the rates if we're still getting a lot of people parking on brand. That's a good option to consider for the future. But then the lots are a little more cheaper. The structures are, if you look at the whole downtown, they're within a walking distance. So if somebody wants to go to a theater, have a dinner, they get a 90-minute free parking. That's a great incentive. They don't need any validation or anything. Or if you're already going to the theater, you get 4 hours of free parking. So the 3-hour parking is for the people that just want to park for 3 hours within a walking distance. They don't want to get into a structure. That was our strategy to put it that way. There's some issues when you go daytime parking, I think, is also important. You may want to, with the issue that you're raising, has to do with the nighttime parking, people going to dinner or at show. During the day, people need 3-hour parking. So if you make it 4-hour parking, that space gets parked for a longer period. It impacts the retail businesses during the day. So I think we have a larger population of people who are using the parking during the day till 6 p.m. Then you have the dinner, shop, entertainment crowd that comes afterward.
I was
So
talking
think-
specifically after 6 p.m. Like you mentioned about Lot 6, you were going to do after 6 p.m. on an hourly basis, maximum 4 hours. So I was saying if we can do the same thing on the other lots, the same format. I'm not saying the whole day, 4 hours.
I understand. It creates a little bit of a confusion if you try to sign it like it's 3-hour parking till 6 p.m. and it's 4-hour parking afterwards, or it's hourly parking after 6 p.m. We played with the wording and we tried to look at that. We try to make it as easy as we can. If it's an isolated location right now, we know about Lot 6 has that issue. So we like to work with the merchants in that area to deal with it. We're not sure, and based on input we got from the Brown downtown brand merchants, that they have that same issue in the other 3 lots that are on Maryland. If that's an issue, we can always extend the hours or make it a 4-hour parking.
John, my recommendation was going to be to do Lot 6 the same as 2, 3, and 17, to keep it uniform. But because the merchant approached you, and that's why I think, it could be an exception, and it's not within, it's still a couple of blocks away. It is a remote lot, but otherwise it would be a confusion for the motorists.
And we have a fitness center that is off of California on Brand. That by itself, the visitor, they take a lot of the visitor parking. So if you give them an extra hour, it impacts the daytime parking, or even at night, because that's open till, I believe it's open till midnight. So it's a 24-hour fitness. So so we've looked at all of these. I think if we go ahead and implement what we're recommending, monitor it, and if those other lots also need 4-hour parking or after 6 p.m., we can make those adjustments on a case-by-case
Have we
basis.
asked the merchants about what we're doing today?
Yes.
Have we asked their input? Or just...
Yes, we met with the board of the downtown brand merchants. We met with their members. We've shown them the pay stations. We've received input all along. Unfortunately, tonight, there was a couple of conflicts that they had. They couldn't be here to provide input to the commission, but they've been in favor of the rate structure that we're recommending. The only comment, as I said, we received was from the Center Theater with respect to Lot 6, because they've been there for a number of years and they have a customer base that is used to that setup. So we wanted to work with them on that Lot 6 specifically to deal with their concern. But they're very happy that we will extend the $1 4-hour parking for their customers. That's a good deal. And the 90-minute free parking also, it's a very good thing. They really endorse that as well.
Last question. Again, on the street parking, 2 hours on Central, Brand, and Glendale. The one on Glendale, I've been mentioning this a couple of times. Are we going to change what time you're going to park? Every block is the different hours you're allowed to park.
It's going to be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., all the blocks.
So from Broadway all the way up?
Yes.
All the way up to 134 freeway?
Right.
From Colorado.
Essentially, we have meters from Colorado, so all the downtown only, all the meters go from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
And the signage
On
will
Glendale
change?
Avenue.
And
The signage will be changed.
No more 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. and so forth?
That's correct. Again, we'll change them, but we'll consult with the adjacent businesses for whatever reasons. If there's an issue with that, if we're of the authority, we can change 1 or 2 spaces. But in general, we like to make it uniform. Because the downtown will cover from Glendale Avenue, as you show here, this is where the meter locations are.
From Harvard?
Yes. From Harvard up to California.
So we're not changing all the way to 134 then? But
We don't have anything here.
we don't have any meters after
That would be something we'll be bringing back to the commission. We didn't want to take a larger scale. There are many streets in the downtown that we think we should install meters. Actually, on northern part of Glendale Avenue, across from the basically between California and Lexington. There's areas where we believe we should put in meters. It's 2-hour parking. It's hard to enforce it, but it needs the turnover based on the businesses there. We'll be coming back to the commission to meter those spaces.
Is there any you said 6 a.m. to, what was it, the hour?
10 p.m.
10 p.m. So what time of the hours they cannot, my concern is during the rush hours, traffic. You don't want this bottleneck when it comes to the 134. Actually, they expand on it, but in the beginning.
When we implement...
After 4 p.m., no parking?
Not right
6
now.
p.m.
We have, as part of the mobility plan, we have a plan to add a 3rd lane
Right.
on Glendale Avenue from Broadway to the 134 freeway. And during peak hour, from 4 to 6 p.m., we'll restrict all the on-street parking. So we have to do restriping of Glendale Avenue. There's some minor widening that has to take place for us to be able to do that.
Because my reason I'm mentioning this channel, on certain blocks you have, let's say in front of Trader Joe's, right next to City Hall, I think you can park up to 4 p.m. After 4 p.m., you're not allowed to park until 6 p.m.
Yes, it's
Then, yeah, and then if you go, I think after Ralph's, you're allowed to park until 5 p.m. So if we can make that consistent after 4 p.m. all the way to 134, so the traffic flows before you're at the line.
The problem is that the businesses along on the east side of Glendale Avenue, they don't have off-street parking. So that's an issue. And we have to work with them first before we make that change. Just because it moves the traffic better, it will impact them. There's many businesses don't have any off-street parking in the back. So that's our concern. So we need to work with them. At some point, we're going to have to do that when we add the 3rd lane. But until then, I think it's okay at least north of California when the queue starts building up to get onto the 134. And, it's not what we like, but we need to work with those businesses to figure out how we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote on this item. I start from...
There was no comments, no public testimony?
I have nobody from the public on this.
I should have done this at the beginning, but the staff member here, Tad Dombrowski, is our new parking manager. I should have said that at the beginning, and so Tad has had a major input in the preparation of the report, and Jeff Brown also, both of them work on this report, so they're working on the implementation, so they're the only one here for public.
Like I said, I was surprised, so...
My only comment would be, again, on the authorizing the transportation and traffic administrator to change parking meter time limits and hours of operation. I would just preface it by saying if they do make a change, that you would bring it, inform the TPC at the next regularly scheduled meeting. And with the city manager changing the thing, if we have the guidelines and stuff, then, I would be okay with that.
My only concern is about if we can implement the cameras in the parking lot, the sooner the better. That's a safety issue for my part.
Okay, well, I will move 5A1 with the modifications just mentioned by Commissioner Welch.
I'll second.
Second?
Commissioner Salayan?
Yes.
Commissioner Weissman?
Yes.
Commissioner Welch?
Yes.
Chairperson Zahakian?
Yes. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 6, Commission, staff comments and updates.
Comments from colleagues?
One good question so everybody knows. When is the Alameda, last month we had folks on Alameda wanted some traffic calming. When is that going to go to council?
It's currently scheduled for the September 30 City Council meeting. All the 3 traffic calming recommendations from Commission is going on the 30th.
Great.
And we've notified the residents already.
Any comments from staff?
Not at this point. Next month, we're planning to bring to you a couple of professional parking recommendations. Also, potentially in November, once we have all the details covered, we'll be bringing you the non-emergency vehicle applications, and a new taxi applicant is interested in applying for taxis in the city of Glendale. We may bring you just an overview of the taxi operations in Glendale, because we have new commissioners that you haven't taken action on the taxi permits before, just to give you an overview of the taxi operations in Glendale, and then bring you an applications for a new permittee in the city of Glendale, as currently we have a cap on how many taxi permits we issue in the city. And to allow them to operate in Glendale, we have to increase the cap. The commission has to increase the cap. So give you input on that first. So November meeting will be for, we're going to reserve that for taxi and non-emergency for now.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of comments, Jono. Last night I went home late. I was working, and the signal at Glendale and Mountain was on flashing operation, red flash, all directions. And this morning, when I was leaving, it was still on flash. To me, that is not acceptable. I don't know what type of contracts we had as far as who services our signals, but a major intersection like that, Mountain, was backed up this morning to Cordova. I mean, it was solid completely. Some motor units got there. I pulled over to start observing what's happening. Motor units got there, but the damage was done. They were able to clear it. It took them a good 25-30 minutes. But, I mean, you could see frustration. And at this day and age, I don't think that's... If it's a minor intersection, I understand. But Glendale and Mountain, they should have got on it 2-3 hour response time.
We're aware of that, and we're checking and find out what the problem was that would not go back on operation. We're checking with our contractor to find out what happened, what the nature of the problem was that they couldn't turn it back on immediately. But yes, I'm aware of it, and we're looking.
Yeah. And the camera kept clicking, and usually they're supposed to shut down when the signals go on flash. So I don't know.
That's also being checked, because we did receive that complaint as well.
You did? Okay. All right. The other issue that I want to bring up is, I've discussed it in the past, during the holiday season, does Public Work have a moratorium for construction on the major highways because of the holiday traffic?
Downtown has a moratorium. Downtown, that we don't do any construction unless it's a major construction that has to take place. For example, last year we had the Americana project was going forward, so we were doing some construction. So we limit any construction that occurs in the downtown during basically the second week of November through December, until the beginning of the year. With some exceptions. For example, we're constructing the bridge on Fairmont Avenue. And That's outside the downtown, but it does impact in terms of the freeway operation. So that one, we can't do much because we have to finish that project in 2 years. And there's, major construction going on that, we can't shut down for 45 days or so. But outside of that, we have a moratorium.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. Next item?
Item 7, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Adjourns. Thank you.